And so you go into handling it, fix it, problem solving mode, appease mode, shut it down mode. But fixing the relationship is not the same as connecting in it all the time. Burnout in relationships doesn't always look dramatic, right? It looks like withdrawal, emotional shutdown, disengagement. If you're in a relationship, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like you're showing up, giving, supporting, doing everything you can in your relationship, but something in you is starting to feel off, tired, not just physically, emotionally? And maybe you've noticed moments like this. You feel irritated when your partner needs something. You feel relief when they leave the room. You're there, but you're not fully there. And then the thought hits you, what's wrong with me? What's going on? But what if nothing is wrong with you? What if you've just been giving from an empty place for too long? So something to keep in mind, giving leads to depletion, which leads to disconnection if done in the wrong way. In this video, I'm going to break down why busy individuals struggle in relationships, what emotional burnout actually looks like, and how to rebuild connection without losing yourself in the process. So let's start with the big picture. Why is this even happening? High performers are used to living in a performance mode space. You're solving problems, producing, leading, working, all the things, right? So performance mode usually equals output plus solutions. And that works in the career or as an entrepreneur, but relationships, they don't run on performance. Connection mode does not equal performance mode. Emotional burnout in relationships is when your emotional energy becomes depleted. Your ability to connect starts to drop, and your showing up feels like effort instead of the desire that you started with. It's it's like pouring into a relationship from a cup that looks full on the outside, but it's really empty. I've had moments where I was pouring into everything: clients, business, responsibilities, partners, children. And I had to stop and ask myself, am I choosing how I'm showing up? Or I'm just running on habit here? And you can love someone deeply and still feel emotionally exhausted. Busy professionals, entrepreneurs, high performers, people who are carrying a lot. I remember working with this couple where both were very busy high performers and they were doing really well in their careers. From the outside, everything looks great. But behind the scenes, they were struggling. And it wasn't because they didn't love each other. It was because they didn't have much left to give. He was coming home mentally exhausted, still thinking about work, still solving problems, 50% of the time still needing to do work at home due to the demands and the role that he had within his work. She was holding things together emotionally, but she was starting to feel overwhelmed and unseen. Both were super busy to the degree that both began to function more so alone in their routines and at home due to different timings of coming home from work and the different demands that their work was having on them by the time they got home. So very high demand, but low capacity in home life. And what we realized was this: they were both excellent at what they did professionally. I mean, like really great at what they do. But they hadn't learned how to transition out of the role in their careers into what the relationship actually needed. So what makes you successful at work is not the same thing that creates connection in a relationship. At work, it's solving problems, performing, pushing. In a relationship, it's being present, emotionally available, being responsive. And when you're constantly in high performance mode, that shift doesn't always happen automatically, especially if you're getting caught at home and doing work from home. So it's not that you don't care necessarily. Your system is still operating like you're at work and you're good at that thing. So sometimes that transition gets a little tough or gets lost along the way. This is exactly why I do the work that I do. When I work with couples, especially high performers with demanding schedules, this is one of the biggest patterns we address. And if you're in this space right now trying to figure it out, like, is this burnout? Can we shift this? What exactly needs to change? I do offer a free couples consultation where we break this down together. And for couples who are thinking, we don't have time for months of like weekly sessions and working through things because we're both very busy individuals, I do offer couples compass intensives. These are 2 to 5 day focus sessions. They're designed specifically for busy individuals. So you can do the deep work, the meaningful work without stretching it out over months, sometimes even a year. Both will be linked in the description below. Now, let's get back to it. Now that you see how this is showing up, let's break down what's underneath it all. Let's start with emotional labor. Emotional labor is the invisible work. This is things like maintaining the emotional stability in the relationship, holding space for one another, managing your emotions, managing theirs, yours and your partner's, right? Both. And here's the problem with that. It's often unbalanced and it's often unspoken where you guys are within that emotional labor mapping. Research from doctors John and Julie Gottman shows that strong relationships are built on a mutual responsiveness, not one person carrying most of the weight. So if you're always adjusting, you feel emotionally on, you're managing how things feel. If it's always you holding things together, it will wear you down. Over functioning is when one partner takes on more emotional responsibility to avoid conflict or discomfort. This is usually the person that's used to solving problems so naturally, you try to fix the relationship in the same way. It might go like this. There's an issue. Your instinct is, let me handle it. And so you go into handling it, fix it, problem solving mode, appease mode, shut it down mode. But fixing the relationship is not the same as connecting in it all the time. Burnout equals quiet disconnection. Burnout in relationships doesn't always look dramatic, right? It looks like withdrawal, emotional shutdown, disengagement, more and more solo activities over time, less and less partner things, couple things. In short, it's like turning the volume down slowly until there's barely anything left. Not the way you want the relationship to function. Burnout doesn't explode, it disconnects. And this leads to something deeper, self-erasure. Self-erasure is when your needs and your identity slowly gets dimmed to maintain the relationship. What it looks like is you started with trying to express, communicate, connect, do the things. So slowly you stopped expressing your needs. Slowly you start prioritizing them over you, and you fit to the relationship dynamics to make the relationship functional. And slowly resentment starts building quietly for doing those things. A healthy relationship is interdependent. Burnout dynamics is more self-sacrifice. So the goal is a healthy relationship should not require you to disappear or dramatically shift to appease the relationship to maintain without there being some negotiation between the two of you and finding a happy medium. So now the question becomes, how do you actually shift this without losing the relationship? One simple thing to do is you're in work mode, but usually there's no transition. You want a transition piece that hasn't been here, a time to wind down, a time to finish out the things maybe you carried over from work, a time to have a moment to yourself without having to pour into and be present for another person after like a full day when you're probably like at the top and really having to put out a lot of fires and handle a lot of decisions, or you have a high demanding job. So you want to go from work mode to transition, then into relationship mode and family mode, and have that time agreed by you two as a couple that both of you have that time to wind down and do that. And that expectation is there. So one of the biggest issues I see with busy individuals that are in relationships is there's no transition between work and home. You go from, like I said, solving problems, making decisions, carrying responsibility straight into the relationship without ever coming down from that state. So you want to build that in. So, instead of maybe just saying, I need some space, which could be received as off putting, could be perceived as you're not into this person, you're not wanting to connect, you're not wanting to be bothered, these kind of things. You want to intentionally create this transition window, even just a 30 minutes after work, even up to an hour, something that gives you enough time to kind of bring yourself down from the day, close that chapter, right? No heavy conversations right away during this time. Give yourself time to decompress, reset, and mentally shift to home. So this isn't avoidance, it's preparation, because the goal is not to just show up, but to show up present, right? To show up present. You don't go from high performance straight into high connection. There needs to be a bridge there to really show up in the way that your partner deserves. So that's step one, or strategy one, to think about, is have that transition time. Strategy number two to consider is to create an internal audit for yourself, right? Something where it's like you pause, you check, you communicate, right? But this is how this would look in the relationship. Instead of reacting automatically to something that might have that didn't rub you right, it rubbed you the wrong way, pause and ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? What have I not said? And what do I actually need? Right? These give answers that are clear, not guessing and not reactive. You don't just keep that to yourself. You communicate it clearly. So for example, instead of like, I'm just tired, right? Maybe you say, I want to be present with you, but I'm mentally drained right now. So give me, like 30 minutes or so I can actually show up for you in the way that I want to, in the way that you deserve. That's going to be received differently. Clarity reduces resentment and misunderstanding. Silence builds it, and vagueness fuels the flame. So strategy three would be to intentionally prioritize the relationship. Just like with work, right? You're great at prioritizing time management, scheduling out the things that need to be done, and making sure you have time for those things. You're good at scheduling what matters at work. Use that skill set and that strength to prioritize the relationship and schedule what actually matters. So here's the reality. You already know how to prioritize what's important. You do it every day. Deadlines that get scheduled, meetings that get scheduled, responsibilities that get scheduled. Same thing for the relationship. It usually gets whatever's left over. So you want to make the shift. Instead of like hoping connection happens, you intentionally create the space for it on both sides, especially if both of you are busy. And you protect that space as you would anything else that you have deemed as important that needs to happen for that week or that month, like whatever you guys have planned. You don't keep pushing it over. Now, what are you blocking time for? You're creating space for planned quality time. Doesn't always have to be get dressed, get up, go out, but planned quality time, protected time together, right? Consistent check-ins with each other. These things need to be consistent. If you don't prioritize the relationship on purpose, it will always fall behind what feels urgent. Strategy four is bids for connection and building them into your relationship. Now, this comes directly from Gottman's work, and it's one of the most important things you can understand. A bid is any small attempt to connect. It could be a comment, a question, a moment of attention, even something small like, look at this. It's when someone makes a bid, you have a choice, right? You can turn towards that bid, meaning you show up, you give some thought, some energy into what this person has just tried to connect with you to. You could turn away from the bid by maybe not being so supportive, being dismissive, or you can ignore it altogether. The attempt is there and it goes unacknowledged. Those are the three. So choose to turn towards, make a conscious effort to connect when your partner is trying to connect with you, and make more conscious effort for you to initiate those bids as well. A lot of times high performers aren't ignoring it intentionally. They're just still mentally somewhere else. So what do? When your partner reaches for connection, give your full attention in that moment, even if it's brief, and just start there and let that grow. Because when bids are repeatedly missed, people stop making them. And that's when the disconnection really starts. So you don't rebuild connection by giving more necessarily. You rebuild it by giving differently. If you've been feeling emotionally exhausted, don't ignore that. It's information. Book a free consultation with me or explore our Couples Compass Intensive. Or you can also download the Relationship Burnout Kit that I have all put in the description below. And if this was helpful, then subscribe, share it with other couples, make a comment. Let me know what hit you the most. That's it for now.